Hello and welcome back. My name is Tahira and I'm so glad that you're here. We're gonna jump right into what is being queer. Being queer for me means simply not straight. Queerness for me is an umbrella. I would say that lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgendered identifying people can probably all identify with the label or the identity of being queer. I personally like the identity of being queer because it's a little bit more ambiguous. I think that sexuality and your gender, all of these things can just morph and bloom and change over time. And I don't necessarily think that, for me, one label can take me through my entire life. For many, many years, I identified as being bisexual. Today, if you were to ask me, I would identify as being queer because I don't think that I necessarily fit into a specific box. I like the wiggle room that queerness gives me, and it doesn't necessarily keep me in a box. I feel like, again, sexuality and gender can really just change over time, and queerness feels right. It feels right for me. As a kid, the first thing that came to my mind when I would think queer or gay would be like the Pride Parade, right? Like, it's that vision of, white men in their rainbow booty shorts, waving the pride flag high in the air through the streets and dancing to, trance music or whatever it is. I did not see myself in any of the images that I thought when thinking of being queer or gay or lesbian or bisexual. I did not see myself at all. None of the images that I'm seeing in the media representing queer or gay people or lesbians, they didn't look like me. Like, this is ancient times compared to now. Like, I feel like there's so much information available and there's so much more representation now, even though I feel like there still is not a lot of Black queer representation in the media, especially just in mainstream media. It was very, very hard for me to put two and two together. I was having these feelings about myself and just questioning my identity, but I wasn't seeing any role models that looked like me. It was just confusing. I felt like in order to identify as something, I needed to look a certain way, and if I didn't look a certain way, then it left me with a big question mark on my forehead. When I first started to question my own sexuality, it was a lot of just constant checking myself. So my crushes, my little middle school crushes were more stress inducing. It was more of, okay, I have a crush on this boy in my class, so maybe I'm not a lesbian. Okay, I have a crush on this girl in my class, maybe I am a lesbian. I didn't even know what bisexuality was. I did get to a point where I was ordering a ton of books and I was going to the library and learning about sexuality. So I did eventually get to a place where, okay, there is such a thing as liking or, loving both genders. That's a thing. And I was like, okay, yes. Yes, okay, this works for me. So for a long time, I felt like I had to choose. I feel like I had to choose I feel like I've heard this a lot. You have to choose a side. What is that about, first of all? But anyway, I felt like I had to choose a side. And that stressed me the fuck out. It stressed me the fuck out because this is not how my sexuality is set up. It never has been, and it probably never will be. So eventually, like I said, I did get into some books. I was in the library. I was really trying to like do some research on the spectrum of sexuality, and I understood that, okay, sexuality is a spectrum. And it's not necessarily about choosing a side, which is really ignorant. Let's just leave that there. That is very ignorant. But sexuality is a spectrum. So I did eventually come out in middle school to, my closest friends as bisexual. And this was super liberating. I felt like, okay, I feel like that fits. I didn't know anybody else who identified as being bisexual, but I knew that that was something that at the time, that label fit me. And I think I came to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't know anybody who identifies as being bisexual. I'm not seeing any role models in the media that are bisexual or are bisexual and look like me. They're black, they're feminine, whatever it is. I just didn't see it. And at that point, I just didn't care. So I just kind of moved on with my life and labeled myself as being bisexual. So moving forward, I had identified as being bisexual for years and years. It was no secret. It's just who I was. Ended up being in a long-term heterosexual relationship. Personally, I felt like I had to stifle my queerness. Like it felt like my queerness didn't matter anymore, which is a really horrible feeling. It felt like I couldn't celebrate being queer or bisexual. It felt like I couldn't be proud of my sexuality. It felt like a part of me didn't necessarily matter anymore because I had now, I went the straight route. That's how it felt. And that might be controversial to say, but that's how it felt. However, if you are queer in a heterosexual relationship, you are still queer. And if you're feeling like you want to show your queerness, you want to be proud of your sexuality, do that for yourself. Please. I beg of you. You're going to feel like a part of you has been suppressed, even though you have been, or you may have been out for many, many, many years. Or there's a lot of different possibilities here. Or if you haven't been out for many, many years and you are in a long-term or short-term, whatever it is, heterosexual relationship, your sexuality is very much valid. If you come to the realization that you do identify with being queer while being in a heterosexual relationship, it is 100% valid of you to feel like you can celebrate, show all of your pride, do all of those things, because your sexuality is yours. Regardless of whatever relationship you are in, your sexuality is yours. So be proud, regardless of whatever relationship that you are in. You are you, and you are unique, and you're beautiful, and your relationship does not change your sexuality. So let me know in the comments, are you queer in a heterosexual relationship? What has been your experience? Did you have the same experience for people trying to put you back in the closet? Have you yourself felt like you put yourself back in the closet? I'd really love to hear your experience. So cheers to authenticity, and cheers to being yourself, and cheers to being queer. There's so much beauty in queerness and just being yourself. So, and it takes a lot in this society to just live authentically. So cheers to you, cheers to me, and yeah, thank you for being here. So if you made it all the way to the end, please drop a heart. Is this the way the cool kids do it? Is this it? No, I don't know. Oh. Anyway. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one.